Hey, what's up, everybody? Chad Calek here, and welcome back to the In a Crowded Room podcast for episode number 73, in which it is Q&A time again, in which I have scoured the comment boards, Facebook messages, emails, Twitter, Instagram, to basically compile what I think are the most interesting comments that I've been asked over the last, 2 or 3 weeks since we did this. So let's just jump right into it. Karen from Toronto, Canada asks, would you ever consider taking questions for a Q&A episode with Laura? I often wonder what it's like to be your wife. I shouldn't be laughing so much at that, I guess. I don't know that Laura would do it. I don't know. I'll ask her. I'll ask her to see if she'll do it. Laura and I definitely have our own separate careers. And for the most part, we intentionally keep them as separate as we can. Just because I think it's part of a healthy relationship to be doing your own thing. But my world is so different from her world. Laura's a school teacher. I'm a filmmaker / paranormal investigator. I could see why the question would come up. What is it like for her? And we've been together, obviously, since we were 15. So, a very long time. And what's it like for her? Well, you know what? I'll just see if she will answer those questions. I know a polite answer would be that it's been a roller coaster. But I think that's also, that's what's fun, right? If life was always the same trip every day, where's the excitement in that? But I will ask her, and I'll see if she would be willing to take questions, and maybe do an interview on here with her with all of your questions. That might be interesting. So, but thank you, Karen. Darren from Sharpstown, Texas. One of my favorite movie theaters in Sharpstown. Darren wants to know, have I ever considered that Daniel David Skyfall may actually be using me to deliver disinformation? 100%. Yeah, no, I think about it every day. I am so immersed in this world right now of what is going on with all this stuff. And Skyfall is an interesting guy. At times, he seems almost robotic. And then at times, he actually shows little hints of having a sense of humor. And I don't know why he won't just tell me things straight out. It's almost like he leaves breadcrumbs for me to find them. But listen, he told me right away that's what he worked in, is disinformation, which that has stuck in my head since the very beginning talking to him. So a lot of times when he tells me things, I will not only try to confirm them, but I will try to confirm what is the result of me having this information. Is it a positive or a negative if the public knew these things that he's trying to get me to report on? Because at the end of the day, he contacted me. I didn't know him. So he wants me to get information out there. And, okay, but I don't know. I feel like any exchange in life should be a give or take. I need to know where this is ultimately going. And the stuff that he recently gave me really blew me away. And I mentioned that on the last podcast, which I am in the process of meeting with attorneys right now, because the stuff that he gave me is not stuff I feel comfortable just dumping out there into the world. I got to know that I will be okay, because it is truly mind-blowing stuff that, could alter and change a lot of things. And I believe could potentially put, a much bigger focus on me as the messenger than I am necessarily comfortable with right now. Or at least I could be comfortable with it if I knew I was going to be okay by doing it legally, by releasing this information. So, but I do, I wonder every single day, because he got a hold of me? Is he just trying to use me? At this point, I don't feel that to be the case, but that doesn't mean that can't change in the next 5 minutes with this next message. Anybody who hides their identity, I am cautious of, you know. And I understand there might be reasons to do that, but that doesn't mean that I'm, have to be fully understanding. I mean, I'm cautious of anybody who will not stand for their own words. So I am cautious of Skyfall. But so far, he has led me to a pretty mind-blowing place. And you guys are going to hear all about kind of the rest of his story right now to where we're at in the Phantom Rider continuation of the story. If you're interested in the Phantom Rider, you can support us by checking it out. I'll put the link in the description below. You can pick up the DVD or the digital order down there. I can promise you there's going to be some information in there that is truly mind-blowing. But yeah. Rick from Murfreesboro, Tennessee. It's such a weird name. I've heard that name before, too. That's fairly close to where Beasley lives. Rick from Murfreesboro, Tennessee says, "Hey, Chad, long-time fan of your work. Thank you, Rick. I was just wondering if you would do some reaction videos or top 5 lists for best paranormal evidence captured on the web for each month. Have you ever thought about this?" I've never thought about like top 5 lists or anything, because I don't know, who am I to say what's a top 5 and what's not. But I get a lot of requests to do reaction videos where like new evidence will come out, or I get people send me a lot of songs, a lot of music, and want me to do reactions to that, reactions to like new TV shows or something. By the way, if I still sound funny, it's because one of my crowns is in today for my surgery. So the other one did not come yet. So I have one in, and it's kind of making me talk goofy right now, which drives me crazy. But this will all be taken care of in the next 48 hours, by the way. So, but yeah, I would like to do some reaction videos, and I think I'll do that pretty soon. Right now, guys, it's just time is my problem. I mean, if I'm awake, I'm working, period. I mean, there's so many projects that I have going on, and they're all worthy. I mean, they're all valid and good projects, and including this podcast. I love this podcast, and I love how loyal people are to it. But I mean, I'm working on 2 features. There's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes right now, guys. There's a lot of Hollywood stuff going on behind the scenes. There's a lot of stuff going on with, Paleface and Phantom Rider, and there's a huge producer that we're working with right now, and so it really is just about time, because at the end of the day, if I already don't have any time as it is, to add something is to take away from the few minutes, I mean literally minutes out of the day that I have for Laura, or Gracie, or it's just it's very, very hard to add stuff. But I do want to do reactions at some point. That would be a lot of fun. Okay, let's go on to the next one. Rick Salazar from East LA wants to know, what are your thoughts on ghost hunting after smoking some of that OG Kush? I thought this one was funny. I just added it. I would not advise ghost hunting while being high. I think I get asked questions like this because of Joey's role in Blood Red Sky, and that he had taken some mind-altering, drugs. But I would like to point out to everybody, when Joey took and ingested the drugs that he did, we were doing an experiment on the power of the mind. We were comparing his mind state and the potential psychokinetic abilities that could possibly be unlocked through the introduction of mind-altering chemicals. We weren't seeing how different ghost hunting would be if you're high, So it's a funny question, Rick. I do not advise anybody to do any kind of drugs and ghost hunting. I think people think because I live in LA, and because I'm, pretty liberal on my views about the drug laws. I think people think that I think they'll think I do more drugs than I do. What's funny is I don't even smoke weed. I think I maybe smoked weed like for like a week once it was legal. Once it was legal in LA, for like literally a week I did it. And it was just to experience it and go to one of the shops. And it helps with, I have foot neuropathy, and it helps with pain and sleep too. But the reason I can't consistently use it is I just don't wake up from it, man. Weed just makes me feel groggy, period. I feel happy for a short period of time. Then I feel really warm. Then I feel hungry as shit. Then I feel really stupid. And then I go to sleep, and the next day I just feel groggy. So it's just not my thing. In general, I guess back to your question, no, I don't suggest anybody do any kind of drugs and then go ghost hunting. Not at all. So, okay, Kim from Calgary says, as a fan, follower, and listener to your podcast, I'm consistently impressed by how open you are about your life, specifically with your relationship with Laura. Another Laura comment. As I find it inspiring that you've been through so much and remained together. But I'm wondering, has she ever asked you to edit anything about your relationship? To edit anything? I think you mean in the podcast, or... Oh, yeah, like, okay, I get it. Like, if I'm talking about us, would she ask me to not talk about certain things? No. Laura's never asked me to not say anything. I mean, I think we're both, as people, Laura is a lot more private than I am, but I think Laura kind of knows that I know what she would find to be, I guess crossing the line. But that would be more about, just certain memories are sacred to us and certain things that only we would talk about because they matter to us. But there's nothing as far as, past fights or anything about the way we operate or anything that she would, ask me to edit. We're pretty open. I mean, and I think I'm really open about myself and my life in the sense that I'm not trying to sell you guys that I'm some super human that, is saving puppies and fixing the world every day. I'm not. I mean, I'm somebody who has a great passion for storytelling and for filmmaking. And as a guy, I'm I'm a work in progress, and I have been for 40 plus years now. I've made a billion mistakes, and I've done a few cool things too. And I've got things wrong a lot, and I've been fortunate enough to get things right sometimes too, And when it comes to life, I've definitely been a participator because you only live once. And I'm not ashamed of my past, and certainly not ashamed of anything in my past when it comes to Laura. And I don't believe she is either. So, no, Laura's never said to me, don't talk about this or don't talk about that. Never, ever. So I guess that's a good thing. So Delaney, great name, Delaney. What a beautiful name. Delaney from Adelaide, Australia asks, what have I been listening to lately? I have been honestly enjoying two albums that are on the opposite ends of the spectrum. One is the new Knock Loose album, which is a very hardcore, amazing band from, I think they are from Kentucky. And I actually went back in the catalog and rediscovered a couple old Modest Yahoo records that I've been listening to nonstop lately. I honestly think Modest Yahoo is probably the most overrated, no, not overrated, underappreciated, overlooked artist of my college era, and one of the most beautiful voices I've ever heard, especially in live settings, is Modest Yahoo. So I've been listening to Modest Yahoo and Knock Loose. I know those are really extreme opposite ends of the equation, but that's kind of sums me up as a person, I guess. So, but thank you, Delaney. Delaney from Adelaide. That sounds like a a movie or something. Delaney from Adelaide. That's beautiful. Okay. Chris from Kansas City wants to know if I would ever consider doing a touring roadshow version of the In a Crowded Room podcast. I would love to. I've talked about this. I know these are very popular things that are going on now with podcasts. I would love to. I love the idea of showing up in a new city every day, just meeting people, doing a live podcast and posting it every night, and then documenting that tour basically through the podcast. And I think I'll probably do it sometime, probably next year. But I would start out small. I would do like a 7-city West Coast, see how that went. If that does well, do a Midwest tour, see how that goes. But yeah, that's definitely something that I'm going to build towards for sure. Anything to do with the podcast I love. I love the In a Crowded Room podcast. I love you guys. You guys have been amazing to me with this podcast since it began. And we already have an incredibly loyal group of listeners that enjoy it, which means everything to me. So if I could go out there and meet everybody and make the podcast with everybody, that's win-win for everybody. So yeah, that probably sometime next year. Larkin from New Orleans, another great name, Larkin from New Orleans, wants to know if I have any suggestion for great movies or documentaries that I've recently seen. I haven't. I've seen only one or two new documentaries in the last couple months, and nothing really blew me away. But what I did get a chance to watch here and there at like super late night viewing, I'm currently watching the new season of the Netflix Last Chance U. That documents the Independence, Kansas JUCO football team. Just because I know that whole area. That whole area is my area. Like, I grew up there. Like, Iowa Western College was one of the schools that offered me a full ride to play baseball. Their arch rival is Independence. So that whole thing is shot pretty much in my backyard. And what's interesting is that their head coach is this guy from Compton, this white dude from Compton that's basically recruiting. Let me kill this phone. It's this white dude from Compton that's basically recruiting all these kind of like last chance athletes that had D1 scholarships and messed up, whether it was financial or whether it was a crime or with drugs or grades or whatever. And this guy brings them to Kansas, kind of cleans their life up and gives them a new shot, and works hard to get them back into a D1 situation. Well, he's a very, very controversial dude. He's very loud. Every other word out of his mouth is an F-bomb, and he's got a bunch of flaws. But he's also a really effective coach, and it's hard to argue with results. The team, when he took them over, they had lost like 20-some games in a row. And in a matter of 2 years, he turned them around. They were top 5 in the nation, and he put like 100 kids back in D1 football. So I've been watching that a lot, and I think that's very, very good. I think you guys should check it out if you haven't seen it yet. So I could go on and on about that show. It's definitely a very, very good series that's done very, very well. So check it out for sure. Okay, where was I at here? Okay, Kyle from Bakersfield, California says, I've heard you say before that you think all drugs should be legal. Surely you don't mean drugs that are dangerous like fentanyl. No, I do mean fentanyl. Here's the thing. Any drug is dangerous if you're going to, use it incorrectly. And my whole point is, I would much rather have someone who wants to try fentanyl. I would much rather have them read about it, have literature about it, be able to buy it safely, be able to know how much of, fentanyl you should take to get the desired effect, rather than having someone buying something off the street that they don't know how potent it is, they don't know where it comes from, they may get mugged when they buy it, they may not, it just doesn't make any sense to me if we know for a fact that the drug war was lost. The war on drugs was a joke. It wasn't a real thing even. please do the research on this. The biggest drug dealers in America is the CIA. I'm not making this up. Please do the research. There's no way that our government is going to allow the drug industry to exist and they're not getting their cut. It's more than that. It's beyond them getting their cut. They are the biggest drug dealers in the world. But beyond that, people are doing drugs. Okay, so American citizens have chosen, and their choice was, we want to do drugs. That is the choice of the people. If I was wrong, then we would not have skyrocketing drug use numbers. Okay, so since the people have chosen, then make it an industry, tax it, get the cartels and all the black hats and dirty hands out of it, regulate it, give people the proper information, and let's stop people from dying, off this stuff, off astronomical rates, and let's, make a business out of it and use that money, specifically take that money and put it back into educational programs, and also, I think you should also put all that money into what is really needed for the drug war, which is clinics, rehab centers, detox facilities. We got to stop throwing people in jail because they're born addicts. I mean, the difference between an addict and somebody who's not is if an addict tries something and he likes it, he doesn't have the ability on his own to stop. The other guy who tries it and likes it and is not a born addict has the ability to stop. And they've done enough tests to show, at this point that the addict, it is a disease of the mind. It is a legitimate medical disease. So we can't punish. I don't see the reason for punishing someone and putting them in jail over drug usage. There are people doing life sentences right now for smoking weed. It's crazy to me. I mean, this is a much longer conversation we can have. And I know fentanyl is getting a bad rap, but if you talk to anybody who actually knows the truth about fentanyl, they'll tell you that in all of those cases, all of those priority cases that you hear about where fentanyl was used and people died, in all those cases, the reason people died is because they're mixing alcohol with it. Okay? And I know about this because back in 2007, my first round of pain medications for neuropathy and back pain, I was on fentanyl patches. And all fentanyl is, it's a short acting, really potent morphine. And in order for it to work over a period of time, you have to, take in these time-release capsules. They had patches for me. It was called Duragesic. And they were just patches that released it over time. But it's no, they say it's 1,000 times more addictive than heroin. Well, that's because in order to feel the effects, you have to wear it around the clock. So there's no time of separation. It's such short acting that you have to use it constantly. It's not like it provides better pain relief. No, it doesn't provide better pain relief. Just using it around the clock, your body never comes off it. That's why it so quickly gets addicted to it. And that's why it's typically used for chronic, nonstop pain that's severe, that'll never go away. That's what it's supposed to be used for. And also like cancer patients, people who are on their way out, and you got to stabilize their life and take comfort measures. I mean, that's why it's used. But fentanyl itself is not it's not some monster drug that is so much nastier than any other drug. No, it's not. If you read it, like Prince, what did Prince also have in his system? Heavy amounts of alcohol. Mac Miller, what did he have in his system? Coke and heavy amounts of alcohol and fentanyl. Almost all these guys, when you add alcohol to the equation, that's when it's like, that's the death prescription. Take any drug and then pour alcohol on top of your heart, and you're going to have problems. So, people, they just have a missed. And again, I took fentanyl around the clock for almost 18 months. And coming off of it was the worst shit I've ever, oh my God, I can never, ever, ever put into words how awful that was. But it wasn't any more awful than any other opiate that you're addicted to. It's fentanyl is not any more deadly than heroin or Vicodin. Okay? It's not. People just think that because that's the new drug that's found in people's systems. And the reason, just so you all know, the reason why people, because they say, why would Prince use fentanyl? The reason that fentanyl is being used right now, it's because it's cheaper to make. It's synthetic. It doesn't come from a plant. Like heroin comes from, the opiate poppy, and there's a long process that's very expensive to make. Well, fentanyl is synthetic. It's very cheap to make. So because it's so cheap, that's why it's being sold, and that's why people are buying it more now. But it's not any more, like it's not stronger than any other drug. You just have to use it constantly, and that's why people get addicted to it so fast. But it goes back to my point here. Look, my opinion is I don't support drug use. Like, I don't support it, meaning that I'm like, yes, you should go out and get fucked up. What I support is free will. Okay? I mean, I think the happiest you will ever be in your life is when you are the healthiest. I really believe that. When you're surrounded by people you love, doing something you love, and you're in the, tip-top physical condition with a clear mind to experience everything, that's when you're at your best. And I fully support sobriety as well, people that choose that. I just support free will. And America, the population has chosen, and by and large, the population has said, I would like to partake in drugs. So we know that, so let's make it safe. That's all I'm saying. That's honestly all I'm saying. And I'm definitely not someone that's saying, go out and do drugs. No, I mean, if you don't like them and have never needed them, that's what I would say. If you've never needed them before, don't bother starting, unless you just want to experience life, which in that case, I understand. But, I just hope that we could start making laws very soon that, basically look at human nature and respond to it in a positive way, And not to drive this home, but again, America has chosen they want to use drugs. So we should basically make that process as safe as possible. So that's just my opinion, You could all disagree with me if you want to. But okay. Gosh, there was another drug comment on here. I don't know why there's so many about that. Oh, I think it's because I did do a podcast that talked about this. But okay, Jimbo from Columbus, Ohio asked, what's your favorite drug? And would you consider doing mushrooms in a safe environment with experienced users? That's why there's so many drug questions that I marked on here. Because we did that episode about DMT and mushrooms that are going to be made legal. I don't have a favorite drug. Being healthy is my favorite drug. I mean, I do have a favorite drug, I guess. Like, opiates just feel great, because the reason that would be a favorite is just because I have natural pain, so I don't like feeling pain. But yeah, no, I sobriety is definitely when I'm at my happiest. My biggest drug in the world, honestly, success. Happiness, being able to accomplish something, music, like those are much bigger drugs to me than any actual drug. I'm just past that point in my life. I'm not interested in that whole world, And would I ever consider doing mushrooms in a safe environment with experienced users? No. And the reason I just say no, I'm sure there may be awesome effects, and that's great. But again, I have an uncle who's doing life from using psychedelics and freaking out and killing his grandmother. And that story as a child was a haunting story in our family. And it's always freaked me out and just, stuck with me. And it was never something I wanted to do. I never felt the need to do it. I don't feel like I'm missing out on something. And if I am, then so be it. That's fine. I'm just not at a place in my life, career, or anything where I'm going to start trying new drugs. It's just not where I'm at. But again, if it's something you want to do, go ahead, Okay. And thank you, Jimbo, for asking. I appreciate that. Josh Banks from Weehawken, New Jersey, wants to know if I've met Tom DeLonge or anyone else from the To the Stars team. I have not. I have not. I've never met Tom DeLonge or anybody working on his team. I would love to. I would love to. I mean, Jesus, do I have a lot of questions. But I would be nervous too because I don't know. I don't know if those guys on his team. I have some real concerns as to whether or not those guys are white hats. I don't know. I'd love to meet them, but I would be very, very nervous. I would be very, very nervous to meet those guys. Yes. Nina from Boulder, Colorado wants to know, do I believe that extraterrestrials pose a threat to mankind, or do I think they would help us try and fix our problems and issues? Gosh. It's hard for me to believe that they would pose a threat to us. Just because I think with education, there's a natural progression of peace. Like the smarter you get, the less, the more you realize things like just killing people and just slaughtering people, just doesn't make sense. There's a lot more reasons, I think, to keep us alive and to study us than there would be to just blip us off the radar. I think if they wanted to do that, that's something that could have been done by now. So yeah, I don't know. But sometimes I have thoughts where, like, what if I'm wrong? What if one day we're like, oh my God, awesome, the aliens are here, and they just wipe us off the fucking planet. I mean, that would suck. Yeah. I don't, and call it a gut feeling, and I know you can't take that to the bank and you can't, cash checks with it, but my gut feeling is that they would not mean us harm. But I do think they would respond if we did something really stupid. I think they could respond in a harmful way, for sure. And I think that's what we need to be really, being very careful about, as things progress here, So, but thank you for the question, Nina. Martin Jackson from Guam says, I noticed you often avoid discussing politics. Is this simply to avoid argument, or is there another reason? Keep up the good work. The In a Crowded Room podcast is a hit here at Anderson Air Force Base. Well, Martin Jackson, you might be surprised to know that my father actually lived in Guam at that Air Force Base when he was in the service. Most people don't know that Guam is actually a U.S. territory. So first off, thanks for tuning in all the way from Guam. That's crazy. So thank you. And why don't I talk politics? There's just enough, political podcasts out there. Besides, I'm not trying to argue with someone or be decisive. I'm trying to bring people together to have a conversation. And it's hard to do that with politics. Everybody has a unique life situation. And that's going to determine what their political beliefs are. And you're never going to get someone to say, I now believe something different than what my life situation is. You know what I mean? So I just don't, it's not my thing, So if you can hear there's a beeping going on outside right now, that's a construction truck. It should be gone here in just a second. But that's basically it, Martin. I just, politics, I'm very interested in politics, but I'm just not interested in arguing about it a lot. And I think politics is one of those things where there's a lot of universal rights, that people have. I mean, I don't mean rights like it's my right. I mean it like your right. Like if I'm in a certain position and I feel this way because of this position, then I'm right, because to me, it's relative. And I think everybody has those unique positions. So I just don't want to argue, I don't want to argue about things like politics when I think we have bigger, more interesting things. The In a Crowded Room podcast was really meant to talk about the magic of the world and to try to, put our finger on what that magic is and what's real and what's not, and together talk as friends about it. So that's what the In a Crowded Room podcast was about. Okay, last question. Quinn Berkeley from Baltimore Says, can you give any more hints as to what it was that Skyfall gave you that caused you to have to contact an attorney to ensure your safety if you release it? I cannot, Quinn. That's you're trying to throw a trick question at me. I mean, look, if I could, I would. I would just talk about it. What I can honestly say is, at every step of this process with Craig and No Face, Two Face, I keep waiting for like something to happen that makes it all not real. But every time I think, okay, well, I'm going to research this and I'm going to find out that this is BS, blah blah blah. Every time it's been just the opposite. And I don't want to piss anybody off by not telling what this is about, but basically I just asked for something very specific from Skyfall. And he came back and basically said, here's your answer, and oh, by the way, and he included something. And it knocked me on my ass, especially once I was able to determine that it was authentic. You trust me when I tell you, you will not believe what I'm talking about here. You'll know exactly what it is in the Phantom Rider documentary. It's going to blow. You will understand. It is freaky, and it's going to make a lot of this make sense. The whole puzzle is not put together now, but a lot of what's going on and why Craig is being fucked with so hard and why his footage is so important. I think you guys will all see, a big piece of the puzzle. There's definitely still some things that I have to figure out. And I definitely have to go to Australia to do it, and probably Mexico as well, and probably Washington, D.C. So all I can say is hang tight. I'm working my butt off on it. The Phantom Rider documentary is going to be incredible. And like I said, the fact that it's practically almost real time, there's just nothing like it, guys. There really isn't. So if you're just now hearing about it, you can click the link below. That's the pre-order page. There's the trailers there as well as a pre-order link. So check it out. Get behind us. Support us. Feel free to do any of your own research on any of this stuff. None of this stuff is an accident, guys. This UFO stuff that's going on around the world with our government leading the way, but just about every other government dropping UFO videos every week and a new UFO story and none of this stuff is an accident. It's all happening for a very, very specific reason. And some massive, massive life-changing events are going to go down very soon. I am certain of that. So thank you guys. Thank you all for listening. Again, I hope I didn't sound too funny with this one cap on right now for this my dental issues. But everything will be taken care of, like I said, in a few days there. I hope you guys have all been enjoying the episodes, also the series as well, the AGH series, the Blood Red Sky series. This has been a lot of fun. Keep your questions coming in. We're going to have 3 new In a Crowded Room podcast episodes coming this week as well. And thank you guys for listening. It truly means the world to me. And I will be back tomorrow with more. All the best.